The scream echoed through the marble halls before cutting off abruptly. Emperor Kael lifted his head from the military reports scattered across his desk. In 3 centuries of ruling Draethar, he had learned to distinguish between theatrics and genuine distress. This was the latter. He found her crumpled at the base of the eastern staircase, blood pooling beneath her uniform. The human maid's breathing came in shallow gasps, her skin pale as moonlight. Kael knelt beside her, his dragon senses detecting internal bleeding, broken ribs, and something worse, much worse. Without thinking, he pressed his palm against her chest and channeled the ancient healing fire that only dragon emperors possessed. Gold light flooded her body as bones knit and organs repaired. It was forbidden to use such power on humans. He did it anyway, brown and filled with terror. Not gratitude, terror. Elena recovered in the Imperial Medical Wing under strict supervision. Kael visited her on the 3rd day, dismissing the guards with a gesture. She sat upright in bed, trembling despite the warm blankets. "How did you fall?" he asked. "I was careless, Your Majesty. I apologize for the disturbance." Kael stepped closer. During the healing, he had felt everything, every injury, old and new. The fall had been recent, but the other damage told a different story. He reached for her wrist, and she flinched. Slowly, he rolled back her sleeve. Burns covered her forearm in systematic patterns. Interrogation marks. "Who did this to you?" Elena pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. "Please, Your Majesty, it's nothing. I'm clumsy. You have scars from energy weapons, burn marks from neural whips, fractures that healed incorrectly because no one treated them. This isn't clumsiness. This is torture." Tears formed in her eyes, but she said nothing. Kael felt rage building in his chest, the kind that made his dragon form strain against his human shape. Someone had brutalized this woman repeatedly, and she was too terrified to name them. "I'm ordering an investigation into your employment history," he said quietly. "Don't leave the palace grounds." He assigned his most trusted intelligence officer, Commander Drake, to dig into Elena's past. What Drake uncovered made Kael's blood run cold. Elena had no employment history. She had appeared in the palace records 6 months ago with flawless documentation, but before that, she didn't exist. Her identification was forged. Her references were fabricated. She was a ghost. Drake delivered his report in person, his scaled face grim. "Your Majesty, I believe she's part of something larger. I found communications equipment hidden in her quarters, encrypted, military grade. A spy or a slave forced to spy. The equipment had a dead man's switch. If she doesn't transmit every 48 hours, something triggers. I'm trying to trace the signal now." Kael returned to Elena's room that night. She sat by the window, staring at the 3 moons rising over Draethar's capital. He didn't announce himself, just stood in the doorway. "How many others are there?" he asked. Her shoulders tensed. "I don't know what you mean. How many other humans planted in positions across the palace, across the empire? How many people are suffering like you?" Elena turned, and the mask finally cracked. Tears streamed down her face. "Hundreds. Maybe thousands. They take us from Earth, from the colonies, from anywhere humans live. They sell us. The ones who are useful become spies. The rest become laborers or worse. If we don't cooperate, they kill our families. They showed me footage of my parents, my little brother. They're in a holding facility somewhere. Every week I don't report, they hurt them." Kael crossed the room and sat beside her. "Who runs this operation? I don't know all of them. But someone in your court is involved. Someone high up. They knew exactly which positions to place us in. They have access to Imperial security protocols." The investigation expanded rapidly. Drake assembled a covert team pulling records on every human employee in Imperial service. The pattern emerged within days. 73 humans across the palace and government buildings, all with identical documentation gaps, all appearing within the last 2 years. All perfectly positioned to gather intelligence. But the real revelation came when Drake traced the financial transactions. Money flowing from an Imperial account into offshore networks. Payments to smugglers, slavers, and black market weapons dealers. The account belonged to Lord Vorthen, Kael's senior advisor and childhood friend. Kael stared at the evidence spread across his private office. Orthan had served 3 generations of dragon emperors. He had stood beside Kael during the Consolidation Wars. He had been best man at Kael's coronation ceremony, and he had been selling humans like cattle for profit. "How deep does this go?" Kael asked. Drake hesitated. "At least a dozen high-ranking officials, military officers, trade ministers. If you move against them openly, you risk fracturing the entire government. Some of these people command legions. Others control planetary economies. And if I do nothing, then thousands of humans continue to suffer. And the Empire is built on a foundation of slavery." Kael dismissed Drake and sat alone in the darkness. His empire prided itself on honor, on the rule of law, on the strength of dragons protecting the weak. It was all a lie. He had been blind, trusting, complacent. How many humans had died while he signed trade agreements and attended ceremonies? Elena appeared in his doorway, escorted by guards. He waved them away. "You're going to move against him," she said. "Not a question. Yes, it'll start a war. The people involved won't go quietly. I know." She stepped closer, her expression fierce despite her small frame. "Then move against the network first. Save the others before you arrest the conspirators. If you take down Vorthan and his allies first, their subordinates will execute the prisoners. My family. All the others. They'll eliminate the evidence." Gyo looked at her with new respect. "You've thought about this every single day for 6 months. I've mapped their communication patterns, their security rotations, their backup protocols. I know where the main holding facilities are. If you strike fast and simultaneously across multiple systems, you can free them before anyone realizes what's happening. And then you call the Imperial Guard. Make it public. Show the Empire what its leaders have done." Over the next 72 hours, Kael assembled his most loyal commanders in absolute secrecy. He couldn't use normal channels. Too many people were compromised. Instead, he called in personal debts and old friendships, pulling together a strike force that answered only to him. Elena provided the coordinates, 12 facilities across 7 star systems, all holding human prisoners. Kael planned the operation down to the second. Every team would hit their targets simultaneously. No communications until after the strikes were complete. Total silence. He visited Elena the night before the operation. "If this fails, they'll kill you. Vorthan will know you helped me. If it fails, I'm dead anyway. At least this way I die fighting." Kael reached into his coat and withdrew a small device, a personal shield generator, keyed to his own energy signature. "If anything goes wrong, activate this. It'll create a beacon. I'll come for you myself." The strikes launched at dawn. Kael led the assault on the primary facility personally, his dragon form tearing through reinforced walls. The humans inside cowered in cells, malnourished and terrified. His soldiers moved efficiently, evacuating prisoners while neutralizing guards. Across the Empire, 11 other teams executed identical raids. Within 2 hours, 847 humans were freed. Kael received confirmation codes from each site, then activated the final phase. He returned to the palace and walked directly into the throne room where the Imperial Council was gathered for their weekly session. Vorthan sat in his customary place at Kael's right hand, smiling. "Summon the Imperial Guard," Kael said calmly. "Full deployment." "Arrest protocols." Vorthan's smile faltered. "Your Majesty, what's happening?" "You're under arrest for crimes against humanity, trafficking, torture, conspiracy, and treason." The room erupted. Officials shouted denials. Some reached for weapons. The Imperial Guard poured through every entrance, their armor gleaming, energy weapons raised. Kael had briefed them personally an hour ago, showing them the evidence. To their credit, not one hesitated. Vorthan stood slowly, his dragon form beginning to emerge. "You making a mistake, Kael. The Empire needs this operation. Humans are a resource. We've built wealth, power, intelligence networks. You can't throw that away for sentiment. They're not a resource. They're people. They're weak, fragile. We're dragons. This is the natural order." Kael's own transformation rippled through him, scales erupting across his skin, wings unfurling. "The natural order is justice. You betrayed everything our empire stands for. You betrayed me. Vorthin attacked first. Dragon fire filled the throne room as two ancient beings collided. Kael was larger, stronger, but Vorthin fought with desperate fury. They crashed through walls, shattered columns, their battles shaking the palace foundations. In the chaos, Kael's mind remained clear. He couldn't just win. He had to make this public. He drove Vorthin backward, through the palace, out onto the great balcony overlooking the capital. Thousands of citizens gathered below, watching their emperor fight his most trusted advisor. "Yield," Kael commanded, his claws at Vorthin's throat. "Never. Kill me and make me a martyr. I won't kill you. You'll stand trial. Every crime will be documented. Every victim will testify. The Empire will see exactly what you are." He pinned Vorthin down as the Imperial Guard secured him in suppression chains. The other conspirators were already in custody, their networks dismantled. The freed humans were receiving medical care and protection. Elena stood in the crowd below, flanked by two people who looked like her parents, her brother. Kael had kept his promise. That night, as the Empire reeled from the revelations, Kael issued a decree. All humans within Imperial territory were granted full citizenship and legal protections. Any being caught trafficking sentient species would face immediate execution. The old laws were dead. A new order had begun. Elena visited him in his private chambers. No longer a maid, but a free woman. "What happens now?" she asked. Kael looked out over his empire, transformed in a single day. "Now we rebuild. On truth this time. On justice. On the understanding that strength means protecting those who cannot protect themselves." She stood beside him, this small human who had toppled an empire's corruption with nothing but courage and truth. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Thank you," Kael replied. "You reminded me what honor actually means." The Dragon Emperor had healed a human maid and discovered a truth that changed everything. Sometimes the smallest act of compassion can ignite a revolution. Sometimes the weakest among us carry the greatest strength. And sometimes an empire must burn to be reborn into something worthy of its ideals.